Hi, my name is Caleb Foster, and for 6 long years I've slept beside silence. My wife, Dana, fell into a coma after a skiing accident. I've kept her in our home against every doctor's advice, clinging to the life we had. I bathed her. I read to her. I paid for nurses when I could, but most nights it was just me. Until about 3 months ago, I started noticing something strange. Her clothes, the ones I carefully dressed her in each morning, were different by midnight. Folded neatly in the hamper. Her sheets smooth. Her perfume faint but fresh. I thought I was losing my mind. So I did something I never imagined I'd do. I packed a fake suitcase, kissed Dana on the forehead, told the staff I was flying to Chicago, and waited 2 blocks away in my car until midnight. Then I crept up to the side of the house, heart pounding, and looked through the bedroom window. And what I saw shattered whatever grief I had left. A man, tall, familiar, was standing beside her bed, whispering into her ear. And Dana, her lips moved in response. I couldn't breathe. Not because she moved, but because the man leaning over her was Mitchell Crane, Dana's physical therapist. He was assigned to her recovery team right after the accident, before we moved her home. Polite. Professional. The kind of man you don't notice too much, until now. I backed away from the window, afraid he'd see me. My legs were shaking. I couldn't make sense of what I saw. Dana had been unresponsive for 6 years. No blinking. No hand squeezes. Nothing. But her lips were definitely moving. I drove back to the corner, parked, and stared at my dashboard for hours. Then I returned home just before dawn, as if I'd come straight from the airport. Mitchell was gone. Her clothes had been changed again. Her favorite lotion was open on the dresser. And Dana's heart monitor? A few spikes. I needed proof. Something real. So I installed cameras the next day, hidden ones. Audio too. I told the staff I was upgrading the Wi-Fi. Then I waited. That night Mitchell came back. And what he whispered made my skin crawl. Don't worry. He's gone. Just a little longer. The footage was clear. Mitchell entered with a duplicate key. He moved like he owned the room, lights dimmed, curtains drawn. He sat beside Dana, brushing her hair back like it was routine. He spoke softly, too softly for the mic to catch all of it. But a few words came through. He's suspicious. I'll handle it. They believe you're still out. Still out? I stared at the video over and over, trying to make sense of it. Was Dana conscious? Faking? Being drugged? Her fingers didn't twitch. Her eyes stayed closed. But that slight movement of her lips, the curve of her cheek, those weren't reflexes. Mitchell was hiding something. I started digging. His records were spotless, but too spotless. No recent taxes. No social media footprint. And when I called the hospital he supposedly worked for, they had no record of him past 2017. The year Dana's accident occurred. So who was Mitchell? I called a private investigator I trusted, someone discreet. Told him I needed a full workup on Mitchell Crane. And while he worked, I confronted Dana's neurologist and asked a single question. Is it medically possible she's been awake this whole time? His answer chilled me. The neurologist, Dr. Hirsch, looked like I'd just slapped him. He stammered, Mr. Foster, it's highly unlikely, but there have been rare cases of cognitive awareness in coma patients. Covert consciousness. But Dana's vitals, her scans, they've all remained stable. Stable isn't the same as unchanging, I replied. He paused. Why are you asking this now? So I showed him. The video. The whispers. Dana's lips forming words. His face went white. This shouldn't be possible, he murmured. Unless someone's been altering her sedation. That was the crack. Dr. Hirsch pulled Dana's dosage reports. And there it was. Titrations that shouldn't have been made. Slight enough to avoid suspicion. Regular enough to reduce her to a passive state, but not unconscious. Dana hadn't been in a coma. She'd been trapped. And Mitchell had kept her that way. What? That night I got a message from my PI. Mitchell Crane doesn't exist. Real name, Evan Lake. Former anesthesiologist. Lost his license 6 years ago after a scandal involving clinical sedation fraud. The same year Dana had her accident. I suddenly understood. This wasn't just betrayal. This was premeditated. I sat in the dark that night, the house quiet except for the hum of Dana's monitors. My hands were clenched so tight my knuckles ached. Evan Lake, Mitchell, had orchestrated everything. Dana's accident. Her coma. The 6-year performance of a grieving husband and an attentive therapist. I pulled out every record from that winter trip, and there it was. Evan had been the on-site medic during our ski weekend. Hired by the resort. Unremarkable. blended in. Until the accident. A misdiagnosed concussion. A mistaken sedative dose on the way to the hospital. What if Dana wasn't supposed to wake up at all? And more importantly, why? My heart hammered when I remembered Dana's trust documents. She had inherited controlling shares of her family's real estate empire before our marriage. But after the accident, her voting power was transferred temporarily to a legal proxy, the family-appointed medical conservator. And that conservator? Evan Lake, her fiancé, before me. He drugged her, erased himself from records, and used her legal coma to control her fortune. But the worst part? She knew. And she had never told me. I couldn't sleep that night. I just sat beside Dana, staring at her face, wondering what it was like, being awake, locked inside your own body, betrayed by someone you once loved. And by someone you thought you still could trust. Me. Because I hadn't protected her. I hadn't seen it. I whispered, Dana, if you can hear me, I'm going to end this. The next day, I met with my lawyer and drafted a court petition, medical conservatorship fraud with evidence. The footage, the hospital sedative logs, and the false identity. We filed an emergency motion under seal. No one saw it coming. That night, Evan came again. But this time I was waiting. He entered the room, same ritual, same calm smile, until I stepped out from the shadows. His face froze. Caleb. I know everything, I said. He reached into his coat, slowly. I stepped back and hit the panic button on my phone. Within seconds, the private security team I'd quietly hired flooded the hallway. Evan tried to run. He didn't make it past the foyer. But before they dragged him out, I asked one question. Did she ever stop loving you? His answer made my stomach drop. He didn't flinch. Didn't even blink. She never stopped, Evan said quietly, his voice level. Not after the accident. Not after the wedding. Not even now. The guards pulled him away, but his words kept echoing in my ears like poison. Had Dana known this whole time, and let it happen? The next morning we went to court. The judge reviewed the footage, the falsified records, the name change, everything. Evan's lawyer barely spoke. It was over in minutes. His conservatorship was revoked. Dana's estate was returned to her control. But she still hadn't moved. Still hadn't opened her eyes. I needed more than justice. I needed truth. So I sat beside her for hours and finally said, I know everything. You don't need to hide anymore. A tear slid down her cheek. My heart stopped. Then her lips parted, barely, and a whisper escaped. I was afraid you'd leave me too. I choked back tears. Never. In that moment, 6 years of silence collapsed between us. But then she added something else. Something that rewrote everything. Evan wasn't working alone. I froze. Someone else wanted her unconscious. And I knew exactly who she meant. Dana's father, Thomas Ashford, CEO of Ashford Global Holdings. Ruthless. Calculated. And the only man who stood to gain more than Evan from her silence. When Dana and I married, she tried to wrestle independent control of her shares. Her father blocked it. Said she wasn't ready. The board sided with him. After the accident, he appointed Evan as conservator. Quiet. Legal. Seamless. And when I confronted him, he didn't even deny it. I did what was necessary to protect the company, he said coldly. Dana was vulnerable. You were a liability. You drugged your own daughter. She's alive, isn't she? I recorded everything. The threats. The justification. The complete lack of remorse. We took it all to the media. Then to the SEC. Within 48 hours, Thomas Ashford was forced to resign. Criminal charges followed. Dana's power was restored. And for the first time in 6 years she stood on her own, weak, shaking, but free. We moved far from the city. Bought a quiet home by the coast. She paints now. I write. And sometimes, in the mornings, we sit with our coffee in silence. Because some healing doesn't need words.